Hey guys, it's Erin, and I am so excited to be back with you guys for a new art journaling collaboration with Laura Mixed Media and Nicole Watson Art, whom you can also find here on YouTube and on Instagram. I will link those beautiful ladies down in the description box below. On the last Wednesday of every month, we're going to put out a video for you guys showcasing some of our strange collection of things. So we'll have a color theme, we'll use a certain supply, we'll use a certain substrate. Right now we're going to be working in the Dina Wakley blue journal, which I'm excited, I've never done. And then each of us is going to rotate and do an ephemera drop. So just some fun bits of goodies that we could also utilize in the art journal spread that we make if we so choose. We'll also leave it kind of open too, so your usual acrylic paints or any of your go-tos, you can definitely bring that stuff in too. It's like an opened challenge, yet it has some parameters. It's going to be so much fun, and I cannot wait for you guys to join us on this journey. Stay tuned until the end of the video where you can figure out how you can join us and we can see all of your amazing work as well. This month was my ephemera drop, and here's just a couple of the bits and pieces that I gave to the gals. So let's get started. So along with my drop stuff, I have a little pile here. Here's the stencil we're going to be using, and then just some of the bits and pieces that I had for the gals. There's some stars there too. And then we're also going to bring in some other supplies. There's the journal. I have my White Nights watercolor set. This is actually my absolute go-to favorite right now, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But that's it. Let's get to playing. So I've never used the Dina Wakley blue journal. This is totally new to me. It has some denim, it has a little bit of canvas, and then some like handmade watercolor paper. I got a little dented, but just means more love, right? So I'm excited to play and see how this watercolor paper works. I'm a little nervous. It's pretty rough compared to what I usually do. So instead of sketching right onto the journal, I pre-sketched my gal, and then I wanted to transfer her onto the page. Normally, I put some pastel on the back, and then I use a pencil, and I go over the lines. But because it's so rough, it really didn't take well. So I'm going to break out the graphite paper here, and we're going to transfer her this way. I don't like to draw directly onto my watercolor paper, especially when I'm not familiar with the paper, because if you erase a lot, it's going to change the texture of the watercolor paper and how it takes the pigment. So this is why I often sketch on a different piece of paper and then I transfer it over. So I'm just going to take my pencil here and we'll super speed it up. The graphite paper worked wonderfully. It transferred in most of the spots. There's a few places my pencil skipped over, but it's definitely workable. I have my 2 glasses of water off to the side, and now we'll talk about the watercolors. I am in love with this set. This is the White Nights set, and it has this little tray that hooks in there. It's totally portable. The colors are absolutely amazing, vibrant. They're wonderful to blend with. There's so many single pigments. It really has been a dream to work with these past couple months. And this brush I'm going to use today is it's a silver quill brush. It has an amazing flick to the bristles, and you can really get a fine point. You'd be surprised with that huge brush. It comes to a fine point when it's wet. It holds a lot of water, and that means a lot of color too. So we are just going to play. I'm going to make a bit of a skin tone mixture here, and I'm going to have my rag off to the side as well as my test paper to make sure that the colors are how I want them before I put them onto the page. All of the supplies I used will be linked down in the description box below, so if you're interested in anything, that is where you can find it. Right now, I'm just creating a bit of a skin tone color. I'm using a English red, I believe it's a Titan red, some orange, and a little bit of white. I realized at this moment that a little bit of her shirt there, the shirt line, didn't transfer, so I'm going to sketch that in and then just go to town and see how this paper works. Right off the bat, it really the water soaks in, but it also lays on the top. It's kind of a strange mixture. To tell you the truth, I'm not really sure how to rate it. The pull-up is good, which is nice. As you can see, I have a damp brush, and I'm just going to pull up some of that excess water. It's taking a little bit too long to sink in for me. I'm not the super cleanest. There's going to be dots all over my page from the water dripping, but this is seriously just a fun spread for me to get used to how this paper works and really push its limits. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, and I'll pop in here and there with a few little tips or tricks. Bring the pages together and give it more of a cohesive feel. So I'm going to take some Payne's Gray acrylic paint and then also some white gesso, and then we're going to make up a little bit of a bluish color that kind of matches the jean on the other side. I have a separate water. I'm a little bit of a stickler and picky, and I don't like to mix my watercolor water with my acrylic water because it gets all in the paint brushes of the watercolor and just makes a big mess. So anyways, 2 separate waters, that's what I'm doing here, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint around my gal. And this is a time where you can take out any mistakes, like the hair was kind of wonky there at the bottom, and you just paint over it. You gotta love acrylic paint. And any of the wispy hairs that come out, we can always add back in with more watercolor or with another substrate. So don't worry about that, and then just make sure everything is nice and dry before we move on. So I'm going to bring back the watercolors, switching my water, as you see, and we're going to work a little bit more in the hair. When you want to create depth with watercolor, the main thing is layers, lots and lots of layers. Allow each layer to dry before you add the next one, and this will create depth and also give a little bit of a luminosity feeling, light hitting the different strands of the hair. get in that flow and you forget to look up and realize the camera shut off. So all I did was add a little bit darker to the cheeks and some of the nose area. Now we're going to bring in that stencil, which is a part of the challenge, and I'm just going to take some white gesso and push that through the stencil with a makeup sponge, and just going to go across both of the pages here. So one of the ephemera pieces I dropped off was this orange paper and these worlds, and I was going to cut it out. Oh, nobody has time to watch all that cut out. So we're going to go ahead and cut those circles out, and we're going to strategically place them across the page. So I have some Aleene's tacky glue here, and I'm just going to go ahead and glue all of the little circles across the page. But why make you wait for that? Boom, there we go, all done. I'm loving the circles. And now we're going to add the second element, actually rather the third element to the page, which is some embroidery floss. And this one has some metallic silver threading within it, so that brings in the metallic part of the challenge. And I'm going to go ahead and sew this through the page. This is going to be interesting. I didn't want it glued because I thought the glue might look weird on the jean and kind of give it a different look. So I'm going to take this large needle here and not hit the camera and pull it through, and I'm just going to make some crazy designs. I'm going to do a back stitch here, so I'm going to go through, I'm going to put my needle further up where I want it to go, and then I'm going to bring it back and go into the previous hole so it makes it look like it is a continuous line. I'm going to speed this up with some music, and let's just see where the stitching takes us. I sewed in a second strand that was a little bit more loose, just so that the page would have some movement to it, and then every time you opened it, you know, the string might be in a different place, which I thought was kind of fun. So I'm knotting the two end pieces together. That way they won't fall apart or get pulled out as the pages get turned later on. And I'm just going to snip that one piece there, a little bit shorter. And then this one's going to kind of connect into her mouth. So my thinking is it's going to be like, you know, breath leaving maybe. So now we have that, and I'm kind of just having fun playing with the page there. Now to get the string to stay on the one side, I'm going to put a little of the tacky glue on my finger and run it over top of the threading, and then just sort of push it down in one area. I'm going to keep opening and closing the book so that way it doesn't like get stuck or rip the page, and that will leave a little bit of movement. So I just want it mostly stuck by her mouth, and then our movement is good. I'd like to bring in another element of the ephemera, and it's this polka dot paper, and I thought it would be really fun to add the tissue paper over top of the color of her t-shirt to give it just a little bit more interest to the page, and then down in this one corner. So I just took some Uhu glue stick and I just put it around, just over top of where the watercolor was, and I'll wait for that to dry. And while that's drying, I'm trying to think about how I want to put my sentiment onto the page. I have these fun little typed sticker letters, and another ephemera piece was like this brickwork on this scrapbook paper. So I think I'm going to cut out the brickwork and then stick the stickers onto that, and then hang them over top of the threaded pieces of my breath. So when the idea of this string being like her breath, I was trying to come up with a phrase or a saying that I wanted to use. And as I did that, I just took a huge exhale. And I was like, you know what? That is the perfect word for right now. With everything that's been going on in the world, I feel like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like I've been holding my breath for an extremely long time. And now is the time to just exhale. We're going to embrace the change. We're going to handle it. We're going to love each other. We're going to be kind to each other. And, we're going to come out of this. We're going to exhale. So I'm putting the letters onto the little pieces of paper, and I am folding them over top of the stitching. And the stitching is going to help hold them in place. Once I have them situated how I want them, I'm going to use a little bit of Oohoo glue stick and just stick the two halves together. I'm not going to glue it to the page, but just the two halves of the folded pieces of paper together. So they'll still have a little bit of movement to them, just like air always has movement to it. To pull up the rest of that tissue paper, I was going to start with scissors, but then I decided to use an X-Acto blade. And this one's actually a little bit dull. I probably would have had a better experience doing it if it was a little bit sharper. It kind of pulled up some of the watercolor paper underneath, which is totally okay and fixable, so we're not going to stress over it, but we're just going to very carefully peel off the rest of this tissue paper and fix any little spots that need touch up with the watercolor. And lastly, I'm going to go ahead and take a really fine point ink pen, and I'm going to trace around our gal here and then darken up any areas like inside of her mouth, around her nostril, the really dark areas. This is going to help pop her off the page and then also give her a bit of an illustrative feel. I was sort of feeling like the turquoise on the exhale was a little bit lost, so I'm taking some of the like a light teal acrylic paint, and I'm just going to do some splatters over the page. I was trying to be careful at first, and then I ended up getting some on my hand and putting it on the girl's face, so at that point I was like, whatever, splatters everywhere. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of black splatters with some black gesso here as well. I'm super excited to be back at the art journaling. I've been away for a while, was kind of in an art funk, just so much going on, but to really dive into a new collaboration in a new journal just fills me with tons of excitement. Here is a little peek at the finished product. It's subtle, but it's just got that I'm ready. I'm ready to exhale, and I'm ready to start the next stage of my journey. I look forward to hanging out with you guys every month now. And if you'd like to join us, be sure to post your pictures over on Instagram using the hashtag Mixed Media Menagerie. And don't forget to follow Laura and Nicole and check out their videos as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And until next time, happy creating.